So within our famous side hustle assessment matrix, we're going to give the difficulty of starting a 1-star rating, 1 out of 5. It's very, very easy to get started with stocks. How hard is it to make $100 a month by investing in stocks and shares? Well, this kind of depends because it depends on the performance of the stock market overall. So in the last 12 months, from 2020 to 2021, the S&P 500 has actually increased by about 50%. That is a lot. It's like gone up by a solid 50% despite COVID and everything going on. So if in April 2020 you had invested $2,400 in the S&P 500, the fact that it's gone up by 50% means you would have made $100 a month. But obviously this is not the way to look at it because, you know, things can go up and down and the stock market has different levels of performance depending on what time period you're looking at. But if we average out the last 30 to 50 years, the S&P 500 has had a roughly 10-point-something% return, which means every year, on average, over the long term, it goes up by around 10%. This is not inflation adjusted for any economist among us. And so if we do some back of the envelope calculations, if we want to earn $100 a month passively through stocks and shares, we would need around about $12,000 invested in the S&P 500 to make that 10%, $1,200 a year, which is $100 a month. But as I talk about in that video about stocks, over time we have compounding. And so if you put in $7,500 in the S&P 500 and you left it there for 5 years, then 5 years later, you would be making roughly $100 a month if we go by this very average figure of 10% a year. Or if you invested $5,000 in the S&P 500, then 10 years later, you'd be making $100 a month in purely passive income, again, assuming the 10% average. So overall, how hard is it really to make $100 a month in passive income from stocks and shares? Well, it kind of just depends on how hard is it for you to make $5,000, $7,500 or $12,000 in savings and put them into a stock market index fund. And crucially, this is money that you shouldn't need to touch in the next 5 to 10 years at least. So basically, how easy is it for you to make that sort of money?